Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 846A, and today's date is December 18th, 2015, and the title of the episode is Congress Passes the Spending Bill with Additional Concealed Sections, which Obama is ready to sign. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, since the Fed has announced that they're going to raise the Fed fund rate by a quarter percentage, we have seen the stock market completely take a dive. Now, will this last? No, we'll have the plunge protection, the high-frequency traders readjust everything and try to pump this up once again. But at this point right now, we're seeing that people are not feeling and believing that we are in a recovery and this was the right thing for the Fed to do. This is actually a signal to tell us that we're heading towards a collapse. They're raising the rates in a weak economy. They're raising the rates in an economy that has been completely manipulated. I mean, we've been talking about the economic indicators. We've been looking at facts, pure facts, not propaganda from the government, not propaganda from Obama, not propaganda from the central banks. We've been looking at hard facts of what the economy has been doing. We've been looking at the real layoffs. Remember, the government got rid of the department that counts layoffs. Back in 2013, budget cuts, of course. But then we had to go to a private company, Challenger Grain Christmas. We had to look at the layoffs there, which shows us almost 1 million people have been laid off since June of 2014. And we've seen more and more layoffs. We've been seeing declining sales. Since the Fed came out and said, okay, we're going to be raising the interest rate, we've noticed strange things have occurred. Citi says, well, since we're in a recovery, and since the Fed tells us that everything is fine and they're raising rates, we're going to have to let 2,000 people go starting next month. Well, that makes complete sense. Because they're telling us that we're in a recovery, that everything is fine, we're adding more and more jobs, but every time we look, there's another 2,000, there's another 10,000, there's another 85,000 jobs being removed from the system. And then we look at the participation rate, the people who have fallen off who really want a job but just can't find it. There's about 100 million people plus. So then we look at other indicators and other factors. We look at manufacturing. We look at non-manufacturing PMI, which has now plunged to 2015 lows. Market reported that America's services economy massively missed expectations and plunged to 53.7. This is the lowest since December of 2014. The new orders plunged to the lowest since January of 2015, and employment completely tumbled. Market said this is disappointing news for an economy which has seen the first U.S. interest rate hike for almost a decade. The Kansas City Fed survey collapses. The new orders completely crash. This is the most since the Great Recession of 2008. Kansas City Fed collapsed to a -9. I mean, we have seen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 negative Kansas City Fed surveys in a row. What does that tell us? You know when the last time we saw something like this was during the Great Recession. Again, hard economic facts. Something is wrong. The Baltic Dry Index is at 477 points. And we see why manufacturing is completely falling apart. Another hard fact to tell us that, what the Fed is telling us and what the government is telling us is completely fake, phony, and false is Caterpillar once again has declined in sales for 36 consecutive months. Asia Pacific down negative 17%. Latin America down negative 37%. US negative 5%. Global sales continuing their double-digit decline for one more month, down to a negative 11% in November. So what we're seeing right now is that during the Great Recession, we had 19 months of declining annual sales. Right now, in a recovery where the Fed and the government, they're telling us that everything is fine, that everything is improved, everyone's working, retail's great, GDP is unbelievable, housing, 2 thumbs up. During this great recovery, Caterpillar has seen 36 months of declining sales. Something wrong? Yes. The government's numbers are completely manipulated to fool everyone. And they're going to continually do this throughout 2016. Actually, they're going to put it in overdrive. Why? It's an election year. This is what they do. They make everything look a lot better than it really is, to confuse you. And a lot of people are going to get burnt. A lot of people are not going to understand what just happened. They're going to be completely confused and dazed when this system falls apart. And you have to remember, these central bankers, they're not gods. They don't have magical powers. Most of them have been bought off by corporations, central banks, foreign governments. They're not even working for the people anymore. They're working for themselves to make themselves wealthier and wealthier. Doing things because people have put them in office. Actually, I should say corporations, foreign governments, central banks who have put them in office. And their goal is always the same. Now, they might have to come up with new plans because a lot of their plans don't work out. A lot of their plans have been interrupted, which made it go longer and longer for this collapse. A lot of times they have to manipulate everything to make it look like this, but eventually, you know what happens. It falls apart. You can't keep it going. And that's what's going to happen right now. No matter what they do. Yes, they'll try to continue it on, but eventually, and this is a fact, because we saw it back in 2006, 2007, when there were certain people out there saying this system's going to come down. And of course, we had all the financial pundits, the government, the Fed out there saying, you're ridiculous. We have more propaganda to tell you why it's not going to happen. You're crazy. And guess what? It fell apart. The same thing's going to happen right now. No difference whatsoever. Actually, there is a difference. This time, it's much, much worse. Now, we know Congress just passed the omnibus, the spending bill, and there are certain things inside this bill that the people of America don't want. But they don't care about that once again. So basically, Congress's elimination of country of origin meat labels for pork and beef that consumers rely on to make informed choices about their food is a glaring example of how trade agreements can undermine U.S. public interest policies. Public Citizen said today that the World Trade Organization approved a $1 billion in annual trade sanctions against the United States until the policy was terminated. A provision to kill the popular consumer labels for beef and pork was tucked into the omnibus package passed today. What else is in there? Well, they're going to be bringing in illegals over the border, and they're going to be getting jobs, all the low-paying jobs, to continually pump up these bubbles. CISA was placed in there, hidden once again. Now, CISA was gaining no traction whatsoever. So what they did was they took it and they quietly put it in the omnibus, pretending it doesn't exist. And it made it past everything. And basically, this bill that they put in there, it creates the ability for the president to set up portals for agencies like the FBI and many others, like the NSA, so companies can hand over their information directly to law enforcement and intelligence agency instead to the Department of Homeland Security. It also changes when information shared for cybersecurity reasons can be used for law enforcement investigations. So they got this bill that has been kicked around for years. Nobody wanted to touch it. So they slipped it into the omnibus bill, and all of this that's in there is moving over to the president. Now, of course, the president was out there saying he's going to veto this CISA bill. It's too controversial. No, we will not do this to the American people. But today, as he's presented with the $1.1 trillion budget bill, he says, yeah, I'll most likely sign this. So everything that he's told us, everything that he's done, is a complete lie once again. And believe me, he will be signing this bill in the cover of night. And all of these secret things that were all placed in there will now be law. And this is something that we need to change. There should be only one bill and nothing else attached to it that goes to the president each time. None of this sneaking things in, hiding this, putting a rider on that. One bill, one topic, that's it. And we would clear this all up. Now, Willem Middlekoop is out there talking about his big reset. I did an interview with him a while back on the X22 Report Spotlight, and he talked about the big reset. And he said that China understands that Russia constitutes the first domino. If Russia was to fall, China would be next. These two states are together moving to create a parallel financial system, completely and separate from the Western financial system. That's why both are accumulating so much physical gold. It includes replicating the SWIFT system, creating entities such as the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, one of the principal tools in the hands of Washington to control the global system, which is the IMF. Nations have to go to the IMF to ask for financial help, but China and Russia are creating their own, so people, or I should say countries, do not have to go to the IMF anymore. And we already see this because we see Venezuela, Argentina, Russia are all now going to China. And right now, most likely, is this whole switch from west to east is taking place. Right now, everyone accepts the dollar because the dollar can buy oil. And only when the dollar holdings from different nations decide to buy natural resources instead of U.S. treasuries is the dollar's reserve currency status in danger. And this is exactly the exit strategy of China and Russia. And it seems to be playing right now in front of our eyes. In recent years, the Russians have sold most of their dollar holdings while they triple their gold position. The Chinese have done the same. We see Japan is doing the same. Turkey has now done it. And many other countries are doing the exact same thing. And they have imported and invested in a huge amount of gold. These developments signal the first stages of the US dollar's decay, and this will continue. And we have seen it continue. And at this point, we know the system is coming down. We know that the U.S. will try to hang on to it as long as possible. And they'll do whatever it takes. And this is why everyone needs to be prepared. Because we can see it, the writing's on the wall. It's accelerating. We're looking at hard economic facts. We're looking at what the government is telling us and what we have been seeing. They're completely separate and apart right now. And you need to prepare for what is coming. You need to get food, you need to get water, you need to get metals, you need to have cash on hand, you need a weapon, you need toiletries. You need all these things. Keep them, hold them. This is your insurance policy from when this system comes down. If you haven't started, you can go to lifereliance.com. They have water filtration systems, seeds, bug out bags. You can basically customize your orders. You can go right to lifereliance.com and do it all there. Or whatever you've been doing, just continually do this. Do not stop. Because we know that this whole entire system with the Fed signaling the interest rate increase, it is going to come completely crashing down on everyone. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.